There's a kind of silence you only hear in an old English pub after closing. Not quiet, not peaceful. The kind that feels like someone is still sitting in the dark, waiting. Because across England, the same detail keeps turning up in haunted pub reports. Footsteps above the bar when the upstairs is empty. And here's the question: why do pubs produce more ghost stories than almost anywhere else? And if you walked into one tonight, how would you know the difference between a good story and something real? By the end, you'll have a simple way to test a haunted pub claim, without embarrassing yourself, without faking evidence, and without missing the one moment that matters. This isn't one pub, it's the haunted pub phenomenon. Why it happens, what patterns repeat, and what evidence actually looks like. We'll walk through the timeline of a typical haunting, the kinds of witnesses who report it, the evidence that sounds convincing, and the evidence that should make your stomach drop. One rule: no cheap jump scares, no demons in the cellar thumbnails, just creeping dread and a method. And a warning: if you've never been alone in a pub after closing, you might think you're brave. Most people are, until the building starts answering back. England is packed with pubs older than entire countries. Some have been serving ale since before electric light, before modern plumbing, before the idea of health and safety. And that matters, because the older a building is, the more layers it collects. Stories, deaths, arguments, celebrations, secrets, but that's not the worst part. Pubs aren't just places where people drink, they're places where people confess, where strangers become friends, where fights start, where last words happen. So when a pub becomes haunted, it usually starts small, a whisper, not a scream. A staff member says, "The back room feels wrong tonight." A regular laughs it off. Then someone else says they heard a chair scrape when no one was there. And here's the first curiosity loop. If ghosts are real, why do they so often begin with the most boring, ordinary sounds? In haunted pub reports, the early phase follows a pattern. It's almost never a single dramatic event. It's repetition, night after night, same corner, same time. Footsteps above the bar, a door that won't stay shut, a cold patch by the fireplace, glasses that tick like they've been touched. And then the story turns, because someone tries to prove it. They set a phone on the bar to record, they leave a coin on the counter, they mark the position of a chair, they lock the cellar, but that's not the worst part. The moment you start testing a haunted pub, the activity often shifts. Different room, different time, different witness. And that creates the first contradiction. If it's just drafts and old pipes, why does it seem to react to attention? Hold that thought. Because the next layer is where pubs earn their reputation. It's when the building stops sounding old and starts sounding occupied. Every haunted pub has a heart, a place people avoid. Usually it's the cellar, or the upstairs room that used to be lodgings, or the narrow corridor to the toilets. Why do hauntings cluster around the most practical, unglamorous parts of a pub? Now imagine this. It's after closing. The last customer has gone. The staff are cashing up. You're alone behind the bar, and you hear it. A single footstep above your head. You freeze, because the upstairs is locked, and you have the key. Then a second footstep, then a third. Slow, measured, like someone pacing. But that's not the worst part. The sound doesn't stay upstairs. It moves, down the wall, across the ceiling, until it's directly above you. And then, silence. Not the normal kind, the kind where your ears strain for anything. Here's the question I want you to answer in your head. If you were there, would you go upstairs? Because this is where most stories split. Half the witnesses refuse, half go anyway, and the ones who go often report the same detail. The room is empty, no open windows, no loose boards, no animals. So what made the footsteps? Don't answer yet, because the strongest evidence in a haunted pub isn't footsteps. It's when multiple people hear the same thing, from different rooms, at the same time. And that brings us to curiosity loop number 3. If it's imagination, how does imagination synchronize? Let's weigh this properly. 3 theories. 1 paranormal, 1 psychological, 1 practical. And I'm going to be fair, because the truth doesn't need you to believe. It needs you to observe. The paranormal theory is simple. Pubs are emotional pressure cookers. If something can imprint on a place, fear, grief, rage, then a pub has had centuries of it. Not just one tragedy, thousands of small ones. And the footsteps above the bar become a loop, a residual track. Not a thinking ghost, just a replay. But that's not the worst part. Some reports don't behave like replays. They respond. They move when you test. Which leads to curiosity loop number 4. If something is responding, what is it responding to? Now, the psychological theory. Pubs are storytelling machines. A regular tells a tale. A new staff member hears it. They start noticing every creak, every draft, every shadow. Your brain hates uncertainty, so it fills gaps. It turns random noise into meaning. And there's a social layer. A haunted pub story is good for business. It's a badge, a local legend. But here's curiosity loop number 5. If it's just suggestion, why do some witnesses report things before they've heard the story? Now, the practical theory. Old buildings move, temperature changes, timber expands, stone holds cold, pipes knock. Cellars create pressure differences. Footsteps can be water hammer, a door can be a draft, a cold patch can be airflow. And yet, the practical theory has a problem, because it explains the sound, not the timing. Why does it happen at closing? Why does it cluster around certain rooms? Why does it escalate when someone tries to record it? That's curiosity loop number 6. If it's just physics, why does it feel personal? Here's my verdict. Most haunted pub stories start with normal causes. Old buildings, old sounds, tired minds, but not all of them stay there. Because the cases that refuse to die, the ones that keep repeating across counties and decades, share 2 features. 1, consistent patterns. Same sound, same location, same timing. 2, independent witnesses. People who didn't come looking for a ghost story. They came to lock up. Now let's call back to the hook. The pub is closed, so who's still inside? If you want to believe ghosts are real, don't start with belief. Start with a test. Here's the method I promised. Step 1, baseline. Step 2, map the building. Step 3, control the variables. Step 4, log witnesses separately. Step 5, repeat. 1 weird night is a story. 3 matching nights is a pattern. And what still doesn't add up? The moving phenomenon. The way activity seems to shift when it's tested. If you've ever investigated, you know that feeling. The moment you set a camera, the building goes quiet, almost like it knows. So here's my question for you. What's the creepiest thing you've ever experienced in a pub? Something you still can't explain? Drop it in the comments and tell me what part of England it happened in. If you want more evidence-led paranormal stories, folklore, investigations, and the patterns that keep repeating, subscribe. And watch the next video, because we're going deeper into the one place pubs don't joke about, the cellar. Because if anything in a pub is going to prove you're not alone, it's down there.